This car and the company behind it are wrapped in controversy. Tesla's public image and its owner, Elon Musk, have faced relentless backlash over the past few years. And yet, people around the world still adore this car, and it remains the most popular SUV sold worldwide. So my name is John with Blackbird Productions, and for this video, I'll be revisiting the Model Y, specifically this new 2026 Tesla Model Y. And together, we're gonna find out what exactly is going on with Tesla these days, and if the 2026 Model Y is worth your time. Don't forget to leave a like, and also consider subscribing. I make videos like this every month, just reviewing cars. So if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely come along with me for the journey by subscribing, and more importantly, enjoy the video. Okay, so let's set the stage here quickly. Elon Musk and Tesla have been surrounded by controversy for the past couple years now, mainly due to their obvious anti-consumer choices, privacy problems, and, other more serious activities.
And this appears to be an email from Elon Musk to Epstein in 2012 asking, "What day, night will be the wildest party on your island?" Sent 4 years after Epstein pleaded guilty to soliciting a minor for prostitution. Musk, who repeatedly has called for the release of an Epstein client list, denies any wrongdoing.
So if you're shopping around or just window shopping for a new Model Y or any other Tesla model, I'm going to assume you've already made peace with these concerns. Whether that means you don't care or you're simply separated from the product altogether when it comes to the controversy. And honestly, whatever your stance is on all of this, the Model Y is still one of the most compelling electric SUVs on the road today. And this refresh builds on what was already a solid foundation. The 2026 Model Y comes in multiple trims, but to keep things simple for this review, I'll be referencing specifically the premium all-wheel drive trim. It starts at around $50,000, and for that price, you're getting a lot for the money. A dual motor setup rated at 327 miles of range and a 0-60 time of 4.6 seconds, which honestly, in typical Tesla fashion, feels quicker than the number suggests. Power sits around 326 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. And interestingly, Tesla doesn't really market those numbers heavily on their website. Raw horsepower almost feels secondary, at least in 2026. And I think what really matters is how the power is delivered, as well as how smooth and instantly available it is in an EV like this one. And once you experience how that power is delivered, the next thing you immediately notice is how composed everything feels in here. Because yes, it's quick, but it's also very smooth. And I believe that's what really defines this car. So that leads me to handling, and it's exactly how you'd expect any modern EV. Planted, stable, and incredibly refined. But this new Model Y refresh takes that refinement a step further. So what do I mean by that? Well, I feel like it's a little bit hard to describe just over a video. It's definitely something you'd have to experience, and I highly recommend test driving this car because it's unlike any other EV that I have driven personally. And Tesla still has the magic here when it comes to their suspension. But the tweaks that they've introduced in the Model Y allows this car to glide over harsh pavement in a way the outgoing model just never quite could master. And then there's the cabin. Yes, the cabin. The acoustic glass combined with additional sound dampening throughout the bodywork of this car creates the sense of isolation that's almost surreal. At highway speeds, wind and road noise fade into the background, sealing you off from outside noises. The best way to describe this is, like when you buy a pair of headphones, maybe like it's one of those Bose headphones where it has the active noise cancellation. It's like that, but in a car. And to this day, I don't think I've ever driven any car quieter that is an EV in this specific price range, around $50,000, that's quieter than the Tesla. Maybe the Volvo. Well, I know for sure the Volvo that I reviewed in my last review. You can view that in a card somewhere above this video. But they definitely do their noise isolation very well with the Teslas. That's for sure. But with this sound isolation combined with the quickness this dual motor platform provides, it's like you're moving through traffic inside your own atmosphere. I am not even joking. So let's talk about the exterior, and I don't really have a ton to say here just because, I mean, it's pretty minimal, I'll be honest. But the exterior styling of the newest Model Y is much more distinctive, you can say, than the pre-refresh model, their outgoing model. At least while keeping that sleek, minimal look people enjoy about Tesla's vehicles. And I will admit, I had my reservations about this rear light bar when I first saw this car, like when they first debuted this new Model Y. But when you see it at night, this car looks so sick. I definitely can't deny that. I just wish that maybe Tesla could have added some light here or something to add a little pop to the rear during the day, since it looks a bit dull when the light is off. Nonetheless, every angle of this car looks clean, and hot take, I think this might be the best looking sub $50,000 SUV being sold in 2026. However, I do feel that companies like Volvo, which I keep bringing them up, but I'll talk about them a little bit later and why I keep bringing up Volvo in this conversation. But companies like Volvo are catching up, let's be honest. Now it's time for the intermission. And if you're enjoying the video so far, definitely drop a like below. And also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. I upload new car reviews like this every month. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that, and enjoy the intermission. Okay, so the interior of the refreshed Model Y is exactly what you'd expect from Tesla. Clean, sanitized, and very minimal. And whether you love that aesthetic or think it's gone a little too far, you can't deny it looks very clean and modern in here. And this isn't just the same interior with a new coat of paint from the outgoing model. And there are a number of small little tweaks that add up to major changes for the interior, but here's 3 things that stood out to me. The first thing are the seats. Tesla has revised the padding to improve long distance comfort, and you honestly do feel it. The bolstering is better shaped, the contours are more supportive, and even the stitching feels more intentional here. Second, the overall quality has changed. Everything simply feels more premium in here, I'm gonna be honest. In the previous Model Y, there were moments where you were reminded that the car was built at a price. In this refresh, however, that feeling is far less noticeable. And for a $50,000 SUV, the value proposition inside the interior is pretty strong. And then there's the third upgrade, or rather addition, and that is that rear touchscreen. Rear passengers now get their own display to control climate settings and access entertainment. Preloaded Tesla games, Netflix, YouTube, and other streaming services are all accessible back here. Although, I'm gonna be honest, I do wish this rear screen was either adjustable or detachable, but currently it's fixed in place. And more than likely uncomfortable to look at over a long period of time, let's just say during a road trip, since obviously this screen isn't in your natural line of sight. You're actually like bending your neck to like look at it. So that is, you could say, one oversight that I was thinking about. And speaking of oversights, let's talk about some of the drawbacks, or rather the cons of owning the new Model Y. And these cons also apply to all of Tesla's vehicles. So the first con we have to talk about in modern day Teslas is the data privacy concerns. In a world that is currently in the process of speed running on some 1984 type of stuff, with mass surveillance becoming more normalized, I feel that privacy is more important than ever. And the fact of the matter is that this car is the most connected car that I have ever driven. And the potential for exploitation of your data should seriously be considered in a car where literally everything is cataloged and stored in a server somewhere. And before someone in the comments goes down and say, oh, they anonymized the data, while that might be true, how do you explain the process of actually getting a data report from Tesla and the fact that on the report, there's enough personally identifiable data to distinguish who is driving as well as their driving habits? And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think the report actually shows the VIN number of the car. And my thought is like some of this data is probably anonymized on the back end, but if they're able to pull it together into a single data sheet for you, the consumer, what makes you think they can't do that behind closed doors for another company that might want to inquire about surveillance related needs? Just something to think about. The second thing is around tires. They're pricey in every EV. So get a tire warranty. It only costs like $150 or something like that in discount tire. So definitely consider that. Third con has to do with the front end. It's a rock chip magnet. There's no way around it. Even with PPF, I feel like, because if you get a rock chip in PPF, it's just going to not look very good. And also a lot of times rock chips just breach the PPF anyway, especially if you're taking the highway like every other day. So I would consider PPF for this car, but I feel like the majority of people who buy a Model Y, they don't really care too much about that. So I guess it's just something to keep in mind. Okay, fourth con, and this might be the first video where I've made 4 cons. Usually it's 3, but the fourth one aligns to Tesla's recent anti-consumer choices and just the overall future of Tesla. I'm gonna try to make this as brief as I can, but if you haven't seen the news lately, Tesla's making some very radical choices with their subscription services and the fact that you just can't buy full self-driving outright anymore, which was, I mean, let's be honest, it was kind of still in beta and still is after all these years. On top of that, they're increasing the prices for full self-driving. I think it's like $100 or $200 a month, something like that now. They've also discontinued autopilot, which I thought was really cool in my Model 3 Performance, my previous car that I sold. You can view that video in a card above this one if you're curious as to why I sold it. But it was a very, very nice feature. And while it wasn't full self-driving, it was definitely clutch when it came to dealing with bumper-to-bumper traffic. And none of the newer Teslas come with this feature anymore, which was pretty crazy to me, honestly. So it seems like they're forcing subscriptions on us. And I'm not really big on subscriptions. I have a couple of subscriptions. I think I may have maybe 2 or 3 that I use in my life in rotation. But when it comes to buying a car, so this is what I believe. When it comes to buying a car, I feel that you should own the car, especially if you pay cash, because there are some cash buyers out there that will happily hand over 60 grand out of the door for a car like this, and then just keep it for 7 years, 10 years, whatever. But I think you should own the car. Honestly, I think you should own every aspect of the car. If you're paying full price for a car, you should own that car. Simple as that. And one of the main things I don't like about subscriptions specifically with Teslas and every other subscription service, not just Tesla, is that while you might be paying, let's just say $10 for their premium subscription just to access like a data plan with the car, there's nothing stopping them from increasing that price by double the next year, and maybe the next year after that, and maybe 3 years after that, you know? So it's just something to think about. All right, now it's time for the rapid fire round. And favorite feature, let's start with that. So my favorite feature so far is FSD of all things. And while the price might be increasing and could be increasing in the foreseeable future, I think FSD is probably the best in Tesla. I don't think I've ever experienced any other self-driving technology outside of the United States that is close to full self-driving in a Tesla. And it's pretty accurate, I will say. And I haven't had any issues while using FSD with the Model Y specifically. I did have a couple of issues using it in my Model 3 Performance when I had that car, but they weren't really like game breaking or anything like that. It's just like a couple of areas I had to just take over. And that could be partly just because of the environment that I'm in, just with all the construction, things like that. So that is my experience so far, at least with FSD. Something I'd change is probably the door grab situation. There isn't really like a way of like properly closing the door or like opening it. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Tesla owners, you know this very well. You have to actually touch the bodywork to kind of just have the door open, or just try to pry the door open, you know? And I know some people grab on the trim just because they don't want to touch the bodywork to close the door, stuff like that. But the door grab handle that Tesla uses is kind of weird because it's not like a fixed in place handle. I don't know how to quite describe it. It's something you'd have to experience, but just know that the door grab situation, it is a situation, at least for me, just because I don't like touching the bodywork of my car after I spent all the hard work trying to wash it, wax it, and all this stuff. I don't like touching the glass, and there just isn't any other place to grab the door besides the handle that's recessed into the bodywork. So I hope they figure out some other alternative in the future for any future Tesla models, but that's all I'm going to say about this. All right, advice for future owners. Go and buy one used, please. Thank you. All jokes aside, this car appreciates very quickly. All EVs depreciate very quickly. And a lot of people, if you have a loan on this car, like $60, $70,000, you're already underwater after the first year, technically speaking. So I would definitely consider buying one used. Okay, now it's time to rate this thing, and my rating system's pretty simple. I look at stuff that actually matters to most buyers looking for a car like this, and that is quality, reliability, styling, handling, and power. Starting off with quality, it's going to be a 3 out of 5 for me. It's got those typical Tesla quality quirks, but they're not like anything game breaking, I promise. Second is reliability. It's going to be a 5 out of 5 for me because it is an EV, and these things like last forever. So I don't think I need to say much around that. So I'm going to stick with my 5 out of 5 rating here. I'm going to give styling a 4 out of 5, and it loses 1 point just because of that front grille, if you could really call it that, just the front end of the car. It's very smoothed out, and there's just like nowhere for the bugs to just escape to. Like there's no holes or anything in the front, and it's also a rock chip magnet. So for that reason, I'll stick with a 4 out of 5. Power, on the other hand, I'm going to give a 5 out of 5 because this is a quick little SUV, and I feel like Tesla was the first ones to do it with these quick little SUVs, but the smooth power delivery that is offered in this specific Tesla is hands down probably the best next to a Volvo that I have experienced. So add those numbers up and I came up with a 4.6 out of 5. And normally I like to round to the nearest whole number in my rating system, but I honestly think this car, instead of a 5 out of 5, just because a 5 out of 5 just seems too good for this car, I think it's more in line with a 4 out of 5. And I think that is what I'm going to rate this car, a 4 out of 5. So if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I guess one last thing to note, like I said, the competition is creeping up very quickly on Tesla, and I feel like Volvo has a lot to offer in the quality department over Tesla. And quite honestly, their vehicles are starting to look a little bit better than what Tesla has to offer these days. However, I will say in the software department, they still need a little bit more work. So just something to keep in mind. But if you enjoyed my review of this Model Y refresh, definitely don't forget to leave a like below and also consider subscribing. Like I said, I make videos like this every month just reviewing cars that I genuinely do enjoy. I don't think I review bad cars, but I feel like some point down the line that day will come. But so far, I don't think I've reviewed any bad cars. So if you have a car that you'd like to see reviewed on the channel, definitely shoot a line in the comments. Let me know what car it is, and I'll see if I can pull some strings to check it out. So this has been John with Blackbird Productions. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.